from the time that I'm recording this, it's gonna be another 3 months now until we have to leave the country. Hey everyone, today is just gonna be you, me and this beautiful cup of tea here, because Tying is currently renovating his house, and that has actually a lot to do with today's topic, and that is why we're going to leave Vietnam. As many of you probably already know, I am currently a master's student here in Vietnam. However, I'm soon going to finish my program here. In fact, I'm probably going to finish my program in around 3 to 4 weeks-ish. Well, it depends, because the university hasn't really told me yet, but at some point around the next month or so, I think I'm going to defend my thesis, and that means I will be done. And when I'm done with my program, that means I will have no real reason to have a student visa anymore, unless I decide to do a PhD, although I don't really want to do that anymore. Let's just say I wasn't super happy with how university life was here in Vietnam, so that will not be an option. By not being a student anymore, it basically means I will not have a good reason to have a visa anymore. There are other options, of course, to stay in Vietnam, such as a work permit or investor visa or a spousal visa, at least for straight couples. But any of these options basically have a lot of problems as well. You can only get a work permit if you apply for one certain job at a certain company, and that means the work permit is bound to that workplace, which means if I don't like the job, if I don't want to stay with the company, I will need to get out of Vietnam first, get a new job and a new work permit, and this could be incredibly complicated. And my experience in working with Vietnamese companies has been somewhat colorful, I would say. Not always super positive, not always super negative either, but let's just say I wouldn't want to bind my complete existence in Vietnam to one single company, so that isn't really an option. Plus, it isn't that easy to get a work permit in the first place anyway. The second option that I just mentioned, becoming an investor, unfortunately requires us to have around 120,000 euro or so, way more than we currently own, so that at least at the moment, isn't an option at all. The last option, to get a spousal visa, unfortunately is only open to straight couples. It is not available for same-sex couples. And that has a lot to do with the fact that Vietnam doesn't acknowledge same-sex marriages yet. In fact, Vietnam has de-illegalized same-sex marriage, which means, yeah, you can get married now in Vietnam, but in fact it's just basically for fun. You can have a ceremony and everything, and you can live together and all that, but there's gonna be no legal effect of that. And that means you will have no boni in terms of tax, ownership of a house, and especially no spousal rights when it comes to getting a visa. That is the main reason why we have to leave Vietnam, because there isn't really a good option for us to get any kind of visa for me. Of course, for a short time I could still stay as a tourist, but let's be honest, that's not really an option. I mean, being a tourist even comes with less rights that I already have as a foreigner here. So around February next year we will go to Germany, which means from the time that I'm recording this, it's gonna be another 3 months now until we have to leave the country. And to be honest, for both Tying and me, this is a pretty strange move. We're both not exactly happy about that. We both don't really want to go to Germany. In fact, we would actually like to stay in Vietnam. Not in Hanoi, but in Vietnam. Actually, both of us would like to go to Da Nang. Da Nang's nice. It has a beach, it has decent size. It's not as polluted as Hanoi. It's not as conservative as Hanoi. It's also not as traditional as Hanoi, and it just has a completely different vibe that feels a bit more relaxing and free. So if we were to stay in Vietnam, we would definitely move to Da Nang. However, right now, that's simply not possible. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna move to Germany. We don't really know yet where to in Germany. We have an apartment maybe already. However, the contract is not yet signed, so I'm still a bit careful with this one. But at least the apartment is going to be quite affordable for us, and it's going to be a relatively easy start. It's also going to be in an area that I consider rather safe, especially for Tying, since I want to kind of keep him away from some of the more problematic areas that we have right now in Germany. Some of the Germans that are listening right now probably know what I'm talking about. If not, well, I guess with the recent rise of the AfD, so the Alternative für Deutschland, there has also been a bit of a rise in terms of right-wing fascist movements in Germany, and I wouldn't really like to bring tying into such an area, so yeah. The old area that I'm coming from, which is around Hamburg, is relatively relaxed with that and much more lefty, central, politics-wise. So it's going to be a lot easier for tying to get started with Germany. Nevertheless, it's going to be a challenge for both of us. For tying, obviously, because he's going to a new country and he has to study German. I mean, he did study German already, somewhere between A1 and A2 right now. But of course, that's not enough to make a lot of friends and get a job and or study even or anything like that. So he still will have to learn much more German in order to live sort of like a normal life in Germany. And then of course Germany is a completely different country with a completely different culture and lots of things that just work differently. Lots of laws, for example, that are completely different and they are actually followed and such things. Yeah, so for tying, for sure, it's not gonna be the easiest trip. Tying is also gonna be separated from his family, his friends and everybody else that he knows basically. And so yeah, he has to make new friends, I guess, and I hope that he can cope with that situation well enough. Funnily enough, the same technically goes for me. Even though I am German and even though I spent most of my life in Germany, this feels very much like going to another country. I haven't been in Germany or haven't been living in Germany for the last 10 years basically. And that means a lot of things have changed in what used to be my home country. For example, the language has changed. Germans now gender. There's this little thing where you put a colon in between of words to show a non-binary gender. And so, yeah, I'm not used to that at all. While people might have different opinions on that, it simply means I have to kind of relearn my language a little bit. And not just the way I speak, but also the way I write. And this is gonna be a small challenge. And then things like rules and laws and regulations that exist in Germany that may have changed in the last 10 years and that I don't know of. And in general, there's just a lot more of these in Germany than there are in Vietnam anyway. And people actually care about them. So that's gonna be a big thing. And then also, I don't actually have many friends either in Germany. So yeah, you can basically say that both for Tying and me, it will be a step into a new country, a new section of our life. And it's definitely gonna be an adventure. I have no idea whether it's gonna be good or not, but we don't really have a choice anyway. I think we have to just try to make the best out of it and see what we can do. I'm not sure how long we're gonna stay in Germany. Vietnam may legalize same-sex marriage in the meantime, and that would be a reason for us to go back. Or we get super rich, that could be a reason for us to go back, although I'm not so sure if that's gonna happen. But apart from that, maybe we're just gonna go to another European country at some point, I don't know. It could be that we go to Czech, to Italy. I've actually told Tying several times that Italy has quite some similarities with Vietnam. Both countries have lots of scooters and people drive a bit more chaotically, at least from a German perspective, that is. There are other southern European countries, I believe, that would also be interesting for us. So let's see. We really have no clue. What we do know, however, is that we want to continue with this channel. And I think there's going to be lots of interesting topics that we can cover also from Germany, especially with Tying's new perspective of being a Vietnamese in Germany and being a gay person in Germany as well. So yeah, I hope that you continue to support us as much as you did so far. And I hope that this video was not too boring for you. And yeah, take care. Bye.